This is session 10, final session out of the prior 10 sessions that we've had, where we begin what can only be described as a very preliminary, a very elementary review of the concept of spirituality and spiritual practice and meditation. The ideal is that one has gotten enough out of this to continue that search independently. The whole idea was to somehow seduce you, to somehow inspire you to make the journey for yourself. Actually, after all, we have to make the journey for ourselves. So today, I get a chance to relax, and to now give you a final test, but not a difficult test. Today, our format will be varied somewhat, and I think we will address any lingering questions, topics that were not explored to your satisfaction, and then we'll do some informal sharing. And quite frankly, Bilal, I'm more anxious to get to the informal sharing than anything, you see. Because, you see, for all these prior sessions, it's always one-sided in the sense of trying to remember things to share with you, and I never get fed myself. You know, I need satsang too. You know, I'm just a human being, right? And I need you all to feed me too. And I know you all have much to share with me. So today, if you don't mind, I like to call in my mockers, and I like to get paid back in the form of you sharing with me some of your insights as well. So let us not fritter away the time. Let us begin with any review, any comments, any going over anything that has been said throughout those 10 sessions. Anything you like. I was beginning to mention to you that I got started at 8:30, so I've had already some satsang. We were up in Barrington, and so I'm feeling very good. I went up and got my payback from there, right? So I'm going around today collecting payback. So from Barrington, I'm here now, and so I will feast upon you a little later. But are there any questions that you have? Because we talked about a lot of things. We covered a lot of subjects. We opened up a lot of doors. In some instances, cans of worms. You see. So this is an opportunity we have to review them. So who will be the first to break the ice? Yes, brother.
I have a question regarding meditation. How does one know if it's their inner voice or the Creator speaking to them, or if it's their own thoughts in terms of getting a message?
Well, if you recall when we described the journey within, we talked about those higher states of conscious experience. And in one of those states, we talked about the form of communication being telepathetic, then moving to the next level where the communication is more direct. Well, when God speaks to you, it's never in words, because that's a lower form of communication, even if it's telepathetic. So that itself tells you that God does not speak to us in that sense. Very often what you hear in the mind is nothing but the voice of the unconscious. God speaks to us very directly. In some sense, you almost get a feeling, although feeling is not the right word. You understand intuition, and you're able to distinguish intuition from this kind of talk. Intuition never comes like that. Intuition just manifests knowledge. That is what makes it so hard to process, because we can't account for it. There doesn't seem to be any kind of proceeding process of dialogue. It just flashes into consciousness. God communicates along that line. So the question becomes, does God speak to us at all in the traditional sense that we understand speaking? And I think in all truthfulness that I have to tell you that God does not speak to us at the level of the mind. All this speaking is done by the mind. And there are different degrees of mind. You see, we talk about the lower mind, the higher mind, and things of that nature. But God speaks. Actually, God's speech is wordless. We talk about the unspoken word and things of that nature. So there's not language involved. The question becomes then, brother, what is this speech? So now you enlighten us on that. What do you feel speaks to you in your mind?
Sometimes I get a sensation, but it's like words. It's a yes or no. If I have a question, concern that I want resolved, then it's like a no or a yes. And then my mind begins to say, well, is this really the answer, or is this the mind giving you this?
See, it is the higher mind, brother, speaking to the lower mind. The higher mind or upper mind or divine mind or whatever you want to call it, when it speaks to the lower mind, it gives the feeling that it's not mine. It's actually mine. It's all mine. You see. But the higher mind, because we call it higher because it's closer to the self. It's closer. It's more spiritual. It's less contaminated. And it is actually this higher mind that we are trying to befriend. It is this higher mind that we want to reach into. Because this higher mind will never mislead you. It is almost a division here. The ancestor called our being beneath this level of the higher mind being at the level of Safi. You see. This higher mind will take you to God. The lower mind will take you out into the world. And so very often the higher mind then feels like God talking to us, but it's all mine. It is all mine. So unless and until we're able to follow that which is beyond mind, follow your higher mind. What is the problem? You see, follow the higher mind. But now, how do you distinguish the higher mind from your lower mind? Have you ever thought about it? What is the chief difference between when the higher mind is functioning and when the lower mind is functioning? What is the difference? What does that look like in experience?
I would imagine it has something to, it's divorced from the ego.
Yes.
In some sense.
One of the things is that the higher mind may instruct you to do things that are not related to your ego. Very good thing. It may bear no relationship to your ego in the sense that you have formed an image of yourself. Very often that higher mind will instruct you to do things that you don't like. It takes you outside the realm of your likes and your dislikes. All right. What else? When do you know whether you are under the influence of your higher mind as opposed to your lower mind? Isn't that an important question, isn't it? Right? How do we distinguish the difference? Yes, Lieutenant.
I would say your higher mind is your conscience, whatever that may be.
Well, that's interesting. What is conscience, first of all?
That's the part of you, the moral part of you, that the truthfulness of you.
Well, very often conscience is defined as all of the things that you have been told is right. It is a collection of the instructions that you have received from parents, community, society, etc. It is the sum total of your parenting, isn't it? But whether this conscience is your higher mind or not remains to be seen. Conscience varies. Right? Conscience is individualistic. It's relative to each individual's experience. What bothers your conscience may not bother anybody else's conscience at all. Is that right? It's a very relative thing. Whereas the answers from the higher mind is the same for all of us because it has a universal quality. Right? It is not so much rooted in our opinions and things of that nature. But how do we determine whether we are under the influence of the lower mind as opposed to whether or not we're under the influence of the higher mind? Yes, brother.
I would tend to think that the higher mind would contain elements of unconditional love.
Oh, now we come alive. One of the things, for instance, is that it's right. It has a kind of unconditionality about it, don't it? The lower mind is always selfish, isn't it? Without any doubt, right? All your action is based on me, right? Your whole thinking is revolving around you. My this, my that, my this, I want that, etc., etc. You will notice, as Pam pointed out, that this lower mind revolves around the interest of the ego, exclusively. Even if you say, my salvation, it is still your salvation. It is not concerned with the salvation of any other being on the planet. You see. When one becomes concerned with the salvation of all sentient beings, in Buddhism we say that this person has become a bodhisattva. And in Buddhism they divide disciples into these two categories, the arhata and the bodhisattva. The arhata is that individual who's only concerned with their own spiritual progress. You see. Their motive for enlightenment is purely selfish. The bodhisattva is concerned with the enlightenment of all beings. And very often it is said about the bodhisattva that the bodhisattva refuses to step over into the final stages of enlightenment. They defer their privileges, their rights to being established in that permanent state of bliss. They sacrifice that and they come back out into this world to help those of us who are still struggling. So the bodhisattva is working from a very different perspective. This lower mind is always, therefore, aimed at aggrandizing one's own ego, whether it is in the form of materialism or spirituality. And the sadhana, there's a concept that we didn't say much about called seva. Seva. And seva is that part of your spiritual practice that is aimed toward the benefit of humanity. It's not so much aimed towards you. And in the path, there's oftentimes a great deal of misunderstanding about seva. We sometimes limit seva to just a few simple things. But seva is a much more expansive concept. The real seva The highest savor is that savor that has as its aim the upliftment of humanity as a whole. In fact, meditation itself is a form of savor. Because just think, if you can become enlightened, just think what a blessing you will be. Can you imagine any greater contribution that you can make? So, these kinds of attitudes, savor, belongs to the activities of the higher mind. Where there's no thinking in terms of your selfishness. There's no thinking about me, 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 me. Now, with that understanding, it becomes clear under what mind we function as. Yeah. Most of us are trapped under the tyranny of the lower mind. It's a fact. Doesn't make us bad human beings. It just means that we have work to do on ourselves, that's all. The lower mind wants to do no meditation. Period. Your struggle, you have to understand, is with your lower mind because your higher mind has recognized the value of meditation. Your higher mind understands the teachings. It wants to follow the path. It responds instantly. It doesn't need to be convinced through all these long discourses and dealing and working through all of your doubts. The higher mind recognizes truth instantly. It knows, yes. The higher mind says, yes, Lord. It is the lower mind that says no. And that is what our struggle consists of. We're fighting this lower mind in us that doesn't want to relinquish the goals and ambitions of our egos. You see. And it's a tremendous struggle. We define those individuals who's following the lower mind as mamooks. You remember we talked a little bit about the mamooks and the gurumooks. Gurumooks are those individuals who have been able to subject and submit themselves to the influence of their higher mind. They follow the influences of their higher mind. The mamooks follow their lower minds. Hence, in the spiritual tradition, it has always been understood that one of the greatest boons that we can have is to come into the company of gurumooks. But most of us are mamooks. And this is where our struggle lies. Just even to be able to distinguish between the two in itself is a miracle. You see. It's a great grace. So, brother, this is the struggle. It's at that level. The higher mind, when you come under the influence of the higher mind, you will find yourself applying yourself to the past, the great tradition that has informed all of the religions of the world. When you're under the influence of this higher mind, you see, you will begin to start trying to develop and manifest in yourself all of these qualities that are befitting of a human being. You see, now love becomes, a goal. And I think for how many of us, love is not the goal. Love is not the issue. Yes, we call it love, but that's your lower mind confusing love with the ability to possess and control another human being. That's not love. To reduce another human being to a mere instance of your pleasure. Right? Not to make other people serve the needs of your ego. That's not love. You see. The higher mind takes us on a path of love. The question becomes, of what service can I be to another human being? Just the reverse. We think, how can other human beings serve us? How can other people help us? What can other people do to increase my experience of happiness? Right? Samamuk. The Gurumuk thinks just the opposite of us. They're only concerned, how can I be of some service to humanity? That is why it is said that until one's spirituality is mature, let me put it another way. The way to measure the maturity of a person's degree of spiritual attainment is to look into their life and see how much savor is there. Where there is no savor, there is no spiritual maturity. Just the opposite. So, we can say more about that, if you like, or we can open up for someone else's comments, insights.
Well, Bhagwan, that's real interesting because, sometimes am I dealing with people every day? You come in contact with folks who are very, very difficult personalities. And if you're trying to live out that higher mind, sometimes it's very difficult to know when you all just surrender and not try to help them or be of benefit. And I found myself having a difficult time making that distinction, knowing when you should really extend yourself and be of help, and knowing when you should just really just kind of pull back. It's been real difficult.
See, Pam, that is because you're still trapped in your lower mind. You see, we have to be clear on these things, right?
Yeah.
Because the lower mind will play tricks on you. The higher mind has no such difficulty. The very fact that you have difficulty means that it is the lower mind. Because what is it that's making it difficult? It is that to do the thing, you will have to sacrifice something that is related to your own ego. You're trying to protect yourself. You're trying to keep them from taking advantage of you and all of these kind of things. And these are ego concerns. Hence the difficulty. Hence the struggle. You see? The higher mind, there is no struggle. That is what makes it higher mind.
So you just surrender, you just can't be. I mean, if you're making up your mind that you want to act more out of your higher mind, it's not just a simple decision of saying this is what I want to do.
No, that's cerebral. That's intellectual.
Yeah.
That's pseudo. That's
Right.
false. That's
Right.
false. That's
Right.
deception.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the things that starts characterizing a person that is truly moving into a higher state of mind is that they become more humble. That's interesting. And usually we have a very wrong concept of humility. Now, in our workshops that we've done on anger and so many things, we talk so much about the reality of our imperfection. Now, when one really becomes aware of the reality of one's imperfections, when that's no longer an assumption, it triggers in you tolerance. Right? You become very tolerant. And you don't become tolerant because you are so much better than another person. You become tolerant because you realize that, my God, that person is weak just like me. Your tolerance arises out of your own realization of your own imperfections, shortcomings, faults, and flaws. You see, it is a higher awareness. And so then it becomes much easier. You see, your spirit of savor is more natural, more sahaj. There's no effort because you're imperfect. How in the world can you expect perfection from somebody else? Really? Think about it. You yourself are full of flaws. You yourself are imperfect. You yourselves are full of shortcomings. And you're very in touch with that. There's no assumption that you're making about yourself. It's not that pseudo-humility that we manufacture in churches, and in these lectures and things. It's a real encounter with that is wrong in you, what is weak in you, and you see that. And in seeing that, it automatically enables you to see it in other people. That's the payoff. Right? And you become very tolerant, very patient. You see, all these qualities just rise up in you like cream and milk. Once we have churned our minds, once we have churned ourselves and really discovered these things in us. Right? We talk about anger so much. And what is it about anger? I've always said from the beginning, the problem is not anger, it's the mismanagement of anger, right? And one of the classic form of mismanaging anger is clinging to the resentment that is associated with anger. It is clinging to the sense that somebody has wronged me. Somebody done did me wrong. And the inability to let go of that resentment makes you continuously re-experience the pain of the anger it's into. Right? We cling to it. Resentment, the word itself means the re-experience of the sentiment. So when you are in a state of anger and it's become chronic, it simply means that you will not let go of that original experience of the anger that you have upon your perception that someone did you wrong. You keep replaying the pain and you keep clinging to it, and it kills you. And the only reason you cling to the resentment is because you have not developed any humility. You are still focused on the wound that you have experienced as the result of someone else's imperfection and shortcoming or flaw or fault. And you can't let it go because you have not seen your own flaws. Because when we see our flaw, automatically you can't clean it. There's nothing to clean. And so, fam, this higher relationship of entering into a cooperative spirit with other people is not possible unless we have at least managed even these lower things in us. Right? But we all have that resistance. Doesn't make us any monsters. It simply means we have work to do. You see? And you can feel that ego in moments like that, Pam. So you're just being very honest about it, aren't you? You're just telling us the flat out truth that, yes, there are times when you can do some good to some person, but, you know, there's a struggle with that because, you know, my ego gets in the way. Right. That's true of all of us. It's true of all of us. And yet that is the struggle on the path. You see.
I was recently insulted by a student of a teacher.
And what in you was insulted?
Huh?
What in you was insulted?
My ego.
All right, now it's time not to tell us the story.
And she told me to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
The student told me to shut up, and I had done an evaluation on her, and she didn't like the evaluation. She balled it up, walked out, and at that point I said I was unwilling to change it, and she told me to shut up. And I've been so pissed.
That's right.
What is the
word for pissed? Anger specialist? She been angry, right? Ever since, right?
Yeah, I mean, the nerve.
The nerve.
The nerve.
That's right.
That's a lot of nerve.
A lot of nerve. That's right. Especially a lot of nerve aimed at you.
Yeah.
The nerve of this girl to do this to you, to me.
Yeah.
Of all people. Would have been quite a lot of nerve if she did it to some other teacher. Maybe a little bit, but not as much.
I just think that kind of behavior is just unconscionable for a student to a teacher. That's how I feel about it.
She shouldn't be imperfect. She shouldn't be flawed like that. She has no right to be that flawed. You see, she should have a different kind of imperfection, one that you assign. Right?
And you know, she did it in front of all the other students.
Sure, of course.
That was a humiliating part about it.
If she's going to have a flaw, then have a flaw that don't embarrass people. You see, we want to dictate to others how they should be flawed.
How they should act, absolutely.
Basically. And that's different. Do you know that the real foundation of community, the real foundation of relationship is at the level of our weaknesses? is to be connected at the level of our weaknesses. To recognize we are all just human beings and we are weak. That's what we have in common. What is not in common is our strengths. What makes you unique is your strength, not your weakness. Your weakness is what we all have in common. You see? But we want other people to be weak in certain areas. We want to assign, but we can't do that. The other thing, Pam, is that we want to control other people. Now, that doesn't make us horrendous human beings. Please, let's not get confused here. I've maintained from the outset that our value and worth as human beings is unquestionable. This is not about our worth and value. It is simply seeing how our egos work. That's how lower mind works. The lower mind always find a way to hang the blame on somebody else. It's classic.
But like Bhagwan, as a teacher, there's certain things that you do have to abide by.
Sure, of course.
If a student is, displays that kind of behavior.
Stop that behavior. But why should you get angry? What does that have to do with limiting the behavior? You see, you took it personally. Yeah, set limits, but why are you angry? The issue is not setting limits. The issue is that anger. The issue is that,
But isn't it also something that we need to address when we come into situations like that with another human being? Isn't it something we need to look at on a deeper level?
Sure. We have to see your own flaws, your own imperfections, your own shortcomings. We have to make that discovery. There is no substitution for it. See, other people will tell you what's wrong with you, but that is of no value at all. You see, they will give you a whole list. Just pass the sheet around and say, tell me what's wrong with me. That's a good start, right? If you don't know how to see it for yourself, okay, begin there. Take a poll and say, okay, you all tell me everything that you feel is wrong with me, and begin there. But ultimately, you want to be able to see with your own eyes that which is wrong.
Because in instances, you keep repeating the same scenario just with different people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the whole point, June. And you got it. Is that you keep repeating the same old thing, which means that there is a pattern in you. There's something in you that is habituated, that is automatic, that hasn't been worked on.
And you keep attracting the same kind of scenario in order to work it out?
Of course. And this will go on until you work it out. It can go on for lifetimes. Has been going on for lifetimes. Have you ever thought about the particular challenges that you are confronted with in this life?
Yeah.
Why? Why are you having the struggles that you are having, the vicissitudes, the crises that you are having? Why? Because these are precisely the areas that you need to grow in. And it's not new. You might have been carrying these same lessons around for many lifetimes. Because you are not going to be able to transcend them by reading. You're going to have to get in the midst of these things. That's the only place that you can go. And it makes learning that lesson easier when we have the right mindset, the appropriate attitude. But this fundamental absence of humility that characterizes the lower mind, under the influence of the lower mind, that is the whole struggle. This whole thing about wanting things the way I want it.
How do we choose to learn faster without, well, not necessarily faster, but without the struggle?
Well, now that's a loaded question. It's the assumption that you can learn without the struggle. But the reality you see, June, is that you can't learn without the struggle. You can't minus out that struggle. You have to hit bottom. See, each of us have to bottom out. That's the only thing that can impact this lower mind. You have to bottom out. And bottom out, I mean that when you exhaust all of your efforts, to avoid the struggle, when you fail, when life has failed you, and it's glaring out, you see, then you have no choice. You have to start dealing with yourself.
Well, couldn't I elect to follow my higher mind as opposed
No, you
to
can't
my...
elect.
I can't.
You're in the lower mind.
Okay, I can't choose to do that?
You don't have any choice. Your lower mind is running you. It's not like you are free. You have to understand, you are in captivity. You are in prison. You have no option but to follow your lower mind. Unless one has worked very diligently, very hard on oneself, and gone inside oneself and transcended this lower mind, and even the higher mind for that matter. You see, the possibility of freedom does not even arise. That's what makes the whole process of meditation so essential. You don't have no choice. You are a slave of the lower mind. Now we can dress it up as much as we like. But really, you have no control over how you react. It's automatic. It's part of your condition. What can you do? You are a victim of your law. We are the enslaved. Yes, sister?
But would you say stay in that same situation until you get it right? To stay in that same situation.
You'll never get it right. That's the whole point. You'll bottom out and then you will scream out for help. You see? You'll never get it right. And that's the realization. But you have to go through the effort to only realize you can't get it right. That in and of yourself, you can't do nothing. You're not in control. See, it's that ego. The ego don't want no help. The ego likes to think it can do it all. Now the alcoholic, whose life has been destroyed by the alcohol, still, before they can enter recovery, they have to acknowledge the fact, I can't stop drinking of my life. And something in them has to cry and scream out for help. Something like that occurs on the stage. Something very similar to that occurs on the spiritual plane. Yes, that's right.
Since most of us are in denial of our egos,
Yes, we are.
can the next workshop address the issue of ego?
I think if you like, it's up to you all. You know, I defer to you all. If you like to explore the ego, managing the ego, that's what hopefully been one of the outcomes of these workshops is to begin to see that spirituality is essentially the management of ego. This is fundamental. But I must warn you, Sethra, that in those workshops, it's going to be hot. You sure? So you think about it. You all let me know at the end. That workshop, that's a hot workshop because the whole idea will be hammering you, will be hitting you over your head. And some of you are going to get angry at Bhagwan because Bhagwan is not going to be so poetic and sweet because I would have been given a different assignment by you. But if you like, I will be more than happy to function as a sword.
Please.
The truth is the light.
The truth is the light. But the ego is the only problem on this planet. Even after you've managed anger, lust, greed, and all these other things, the ego is the last thing. It is the hardest possible thing to manage. Because you and I, we think we know something. And you don't know nothing. You really don't. You really don't. You don't know anything. But that feeling in you is that, oh yeah, I know, oh yeah, I know this, oh yeah, I know that. And so when a Buddha tells us something, we edit Buddha. Oh, okay, well, Buddha's right about that, Buddha's wrong about that. Or Jesus is telling us something, oh, I agree with Jesus on this point, but not on this. But you don't know anything. And even when we read their books, we read the Quran, we read the Bible, but you read it out of your ignorance. Fundamentally, you are simply regurgitating your own ignorance. You don't know anything. We don't know anything. And this ego thinks it knows everything. It thinks it knows it. And you have to go through those experiences until you realize you don't know nothing. You need to see how that little knowledge that you've been following has just messed your life up. Just botched it all up. You see. And the real areas where it counts, you see this thing has failed you. And you have to understand that ego is fundamentally the experience of being separate from God. Fundamental. Being cut off from the source that is the source of all things. Ego is the sense of isolation, being alone, having to do all of this by yourself. Ego is rooted in all this kind of fear that comes with it. You have to rely on myself because there ain't nothing else I can rely on. That feeling that there is nothing else that can be relied upon is the illusion that ego creates. It destroys the reality of your being a part of this creation. Yes, sister.
Bhagwan, what if you have studied the subject thoroughly?
Yes,
know?
sister.
So you still saying you don't know nothing about it? Huh?
Still don't know anything about it. Still don't know nothing
How
about
can
it.
you say that when you studied it and you know?
Because you are studying other people's knowledge. You are studying other people's experience. It's not been your experience. Yes, you read Buddha. You read Muhammad. You read
But
Mahavir.
if you experienced some of it though?
How could you experience it if you have not done what a Buddha does? How can we experience it if we have not done what a Jesus or a Mahavir has done? You see, these men, these people were speaking from their inner experiences. Right? So our knowledge is secondhand. Right? You've not attained the level of conscious experience where you can read other people's thoughts. You've not achieved the level of conscious experience where you can move backwards and forward in time. You have not reached the level of conscious experience where you can see all of your lifetimes in the past, all of your lifetimes in the future. We've not reached that. Clear. And yet these great souls, these great men and women, taught out of that experience. And that is the deception of knowledge. Intellectual knowledge especially. It creates in us the illusion that we know that which we don't know. Now, someone tells us about a thing, right? You must have been here. I think I must have told the story in one of these workshops, right? About the Rabbi Yitzhak when he was a young man. Was it here, Bilal? Did I tell it here? I don't know where I told the story. Maybe I should tell it again, and those who've heard it will forgive me. And when Rabbi Yitzhak was a young man, he was in the lumbering business. He was a merchant. And on one of these occasions, some of his associates had decided that they would speak to this Rebbe because they found him always going to see these adikts, these gurus. He spent all his time, and that was, abnormal for a young man. You're such a young man. Why are you spending all your time going to the Hasidim and sitting and listening to these Rebbes and these Abbads all the time? And they said, you read all the books. You know all that stuff. Just what you said, sister. They said, Yisra, you are brilliant. You know all of this stuff. You've read all of these great commentaries on all these great teachings. Why do you continuously go there and waste your time? And he tried to explain to them, but they could not understand. So later that day, they decided, well, we'll go back and stop by Yisra's house and take him out. There's a new drama, and some new theaters coming to town, some new players coming to town. We'll take them and we'll all enjoy the play, you see. And they stopped and they invited Yisra, and he said, no, that's all right. I'm going to be busy doing some other things. You guys go ahead, I'll see you later. And so, sister, they went and they saw the play. Beautiful play. Tremendous play. Enjoyed it immensely. And they came back and they said, Yisra, you should have went. We saw the play and, ooh, it was this and, ooh, it was that. And Yisra said, well, I know all about that. I read the play. Bill. You see? I read all about that play. They said, no, you can't know nothing about that play. You just reading about it. How can you know anything about it? We was there. We saw the great performance. You can't possibly know what we know. And the young rabbi smiled and said, that's what I was trying to tell you. That's why I go to the tzaddiks, right? Because they know that which I've only read. So it's like that, you see. And when we go to these tzaddiks, when we go to these Buddhas, what is it that they give us? They don't give you more books. They give you aviyasa. They give you meditation. And they say, do this and come in and see what I see. Right? They create for us the situation now where we can go into the interiority of our own consciousness and have the same access to the same knowledge that they have. So you say, well, Bhagwan, we can read all the books and we can know everything. No, in fact, you'll get just confused because you will actually start feeling like you know these things. But it's borrowed knowledge, it's not yours. It is secondhand knowledge, it is not yours. And therein lies the problem. And once you enter into that path of just intellectual entertainment, it's very hard to come out of it because it's so pleasurable. Some of the greatest pleasure you can have is in thinking and thinking about the great teachings. It's very pleasurable. I mean, it really is. And I don't minimize it, please. It has its place. Don't misunderstand me, because it can inspire us and all those other things. But when we get trapped in that, now we don't want to go no further. We become satisfied with book knowledge. Now I'm satisfied. Boy, I read all this knowledge. I know karma. I know all of these things. I can describe this and I can describe, and you become very satisfied with that. And the task of the guru is to keep pushing you even first beyond the book knowledge and say, no, that's not it. And yet we will cling. You see. No, sister, there are some things you can only know through experience, firsthand, personal, one-on-one, and it cannot be borrowed. You see. Buddha used to always tell his disciples, he says that if you meet me inside, slay me instantly. Kill me, you see. Because I don't want you just following me. I want you to follow and have your own experience. So it's hard for us to accept the fact that we really don't have any knowledge, not real knowledge. We really don't. It's it's one of the imperfections that we really don't like to look at. Because see, we all have ignorance in certain areas, right? Now that's just true. There's a lot of stuff we don't know about this world. We just don't know it. We don't know how to do it. And the ego is hard for us to give that up. It's hard for all of us, sister. So it's not something that we should take personal, as if it's just something wrong with us. It's just that's the way it is, sister. Because we start off in this state of ego. And this state of ego goes a long time. A long time. We really don't transcend ego until we go beyond the causal level. So our whole struggle on this path is managing this ego. And sometimes we get it under control when we feel like, well, I really don't know nothing, right? And then tomorrow we feel like we know everything. Someday we know we ain't enlightened. After we read that good book, get a few insights, that feeling of enlightenment returns to us, right? So we're going like this all the time, you see. It's just something we have to go through, you see. It is the challenge that we all have to deal with. But there's only one way to know this stuff, and that is to go inside. There's no other way.
Okay, even after you've gone inside, don't you know then?
Then you know.
Oh, okay.
When you go inside, you know. That's the only way to know. And that knowing is reflected in the way we live. Right? That's the real measurement of whether we know anything or not. This is how we live. We'll say, oh, I know the importance of love. Yes, intellectually, but are you demonstrating any love? That's the real measurement. Can you demonstrate it? Is it in your life? We say, yes, oh, I know all about the, tolerance and patience. Yes, you know about it. But can you do it? Is it in your life? Is it there? And if it's not there, we have to accept the fact we don't know. And that then creates in us the opportunity to be given the knowledge. So it's a difficult thing. That's why the path, you see, has always only attracted a few people. Because it causes you to encounter. When you sit in meditation and you attempt to do your simran and your bhajan, you realize you don't know how to meditate. You really don't. You really don't. Yes, you've read a lot of books, yes. But the reality is that you really don't know how to do this thing. You really don't. And so we will avoid meditation because to sit is to encounter the reality that you don't know how to make your mind still. You can't do it. And that's too easy. So we avoid it. But it's the truth. You say, oh, I'll be a good wife. I'll make somebody a good husband. Nonsense. You don't know how to be no good wife. You don't know how to be no good husband. You don't even know how to love nobody. It's true. It doesn't make us bad human beings. It just means you don't know how to do this stuff. You have to get into it. And so it's like that. It's like that. So meditation is just really the starting point, for the transformation of information, into authentic knowledge. And it's wrong for us to say knowledge. You don't have knowledge. What you have is information. Please enjoy the distinction between the two. You got a lot of information. That's all. But information is not even knowledge. Right? It's information. Yes, sister?
Bhagwan, is there ever an instance when somebody might pray for a bottom out experience just to hasten it? So
yeah, prayer is good.
Praying the bottom out?
Yeah, prayer. Actually, Pam, prayer actually is an expression of the bottoming out experience. Originally, when you have bottom out, you pray, Lord, have mercy on me. Help me. Comes when you have bottom out. But if your prayer is preceding your bottom out experience, then you're just mimicking on it. It is pseudo. Right? You pray, but you yourself don't really expect anything to happen. Because deep down inside, you're not feeling no crisis. Prayer is the cry of the helpless soul, saying, Lord, please help me. And remember, it is a plea for help. It is a screaming of the soul for help. That's what prayer is. And meditation is putting yourself in that posture to receive. So the two go together. But if you don't feel that you're in a crisis, why would you pray? For us, prayer is just a routine. We've been doing it since we were little kids. Before we go to bed at night. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul. I mean, it's that kind of mechanical routine. But it's not really coming from the depths of your being. So prayer, yes, is very powerful. If the prayer is coming out of that realization of the tremendous need. But it should not be this kind of scheming, manipulative type thing. You see? What we're trying to do sometimes now, we're trying to find shortcuts. We're trying to find all kinds of ways to get what Buddha got, but without paying the price. We're trying to find ways to get what Muhammad got without paying the price of Muhammad. To get what Moses got without paying the price of Moses and so forth. We're trying to find shortcuts. You see. But it's not coming from here. You know? It's not deep in us. You see. We're holding back. And you can't hold back nothing. We're holding back. We're holding back. You see. We're trying to avoid that situation. But prayer, when it comes from there, the response is instant. Instant.
So if you don't get an answer to your prayer, then it's not sincere enough, or it's in some way it's lacking?
The Lord always responds, with no exception. It's one of the hallmarks of God. But it has to be real. And then you will find that there are those rare kind of souls, those very rare kind of human beings, right? Who, when they're in a crisis, don't even petition God at all. I am reminded of a story about Ibn Sa'd, the great Sufi mystic. And I must have told this story. Abdullah ibn Sa'd. I never told this story. I'm getting senile now. Right? And he was one of the early companions of the Prophet. And after the Prophet left, a lot of the Muslims used to come to Abdullah for his blessings, because it was well known that when you get a blessing from Abdullah ibn Sa'd, it's coming. There's no question about it. And so thousands of people would go to the mullah for his blessings. And in his old age, of course, the mullah became blind, you see, and he settled in Mecca. And on one occasion, this person that tells the story that has come down to us relates the time he, as a young boy, went to see the great mullah for a blessing. And he, as only a young kid could, asked a very innocent question. He says, well, mullah, he says, your blessings are so powerful, and so many people are receiving benefits from your prayers and blessings for them. Why is it that you are blind and you have never prayed on your own behalf to have this blindness? And the old mullah said, he says, that living in the will of Allah is sweeter than sight to me. So you have those rare souls, you see, that accept even a crisis. The Jobs who said, I don't know what you're doing to me, but it must be wonderful. I submit. But if you can't submit, if you cannot be Muslim, if you cannot be Christian, if you cannot be a true Jew, if you cannot be a true Hindu, if you cannot submit, then pray. So prayer then is for those of us who don't have the kind of spiritual maturity to surrender. And it is our screaming. Screaming is an appropriate word, because it's a screaming. It ain't no, oh Lord, I need some help. It's not like that. There is a screaming. This is a critical issue. This is life, death. This ain't cerebral. This ain't philosophical. This is crisis. Real crisis. And something in you screams help. And that has to be responded to. Has always been responded to. But the question is, you see, Pam, is do we really want help? The question is always that. Do you really want it? Do you really want this thing? That's the real issue. Do you really want this thing, and are you willing to pay the price? Everything else is bullshit. The bottom line is, do you want this? And are you willing to pay the price? That's the bottom line. Yes, sister.
An example, because I'm kind of having a problem here with this higher and lower mind thing.
I thought we were finished with that.
No,
sister.
no, we're
Okay.
not through with that. If, say I have a smoking problem, I know that I don't want to hit rock bottom. So I pray in an effort for guidance and support. I don't want to go there, okay? God is going to hear that too. I mean, why do I have to go there if I know that the end result could be cancer, it could be some negative health result. I know I don't want to go there. I know I don't want to get to that screaming. Why can't I, of my own will, or whatever it is, elect to ask for guidance before I get there and be relieved of that? Why do I have to hit rock bottom?
Well, first of all,
It's like quitting smoking
there's no
before.
there's no scream in your prayer before then, right? The question is, do you really want to quit?
Yeah.
You see, that's the real question. You don't have
And
to
you
answer
do.
it, but the thing is that that's what you have to deal with. Do you really, 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 really want to quit? And have you accepted the fact you can't quit?
But you do quit before you get to that point.
Well, no, these are hypothetical things. You have to answer that question on your own. Some people don't. Most don't.
Well, no, that's why I asked, because
Yes.
maybe I'm missing something
Well, the
here,
thing
but
is, you see, sisters, that these are mind games. We say on the one hand, oh Lord, I don't want to do this here. But the reality is, you do want it. There's a schizophrenia going on. There's some self-deception going on.
but if you quit doing it because you really
Well,
want to.
If you quit doing it, then there's no problem. What is the issue?
Well, no, I was asking. I don't want to get to that point, so I do quit.
Then,
I didn't have to get to that point where I'm screaming, and asking for that kind of help. I asked as I went along because I knew I didn't want to go there. So I did. I was given the help, and I was able to quit before I got to that point.
you didn't feel the screaming. That's what you're saying.
Right. I didn't have to
You didn't feel
get.
in crisis.
Well, yeah, the crisis was in me wanting to quit, and I didn't know how, and I needed the guidance, so I asked for support and guidance from God. But I didn't get that far.
Well, these are degrees now, right?
Yeah.
I see. It's hard to compare outside of yourself, but inside of yourself, there's that thing in you that really wanted this to go.
Right.
Right? That you had enough of it.
Right.
You were tired. You want out. By scream, I mean that kind of thing. It's not, screaming is not something that is compared. You see, it's personal. You see. Your scream may not be as loud as this other person's scream. That's all right. It's your scream. We all scream in our own ways, though. There is no outward standard to measure the authenticity, right? But only you can know. It's like love, right? Do you know when you're in love? And when you're not in love? Do you have to consort with another person and say, can you tell me to what degree I'm in love? Is my love 100% love, 200%? These are all self-referential out there. Right? So it's like that. You see. But by scream, I mean is that you acknowledge that your life is moving into a place, you see, and you don't want to be there. And you want out. And you asking for some help. You see. You have to think on it some. It's not a satisfying answer, but meditate on it some. Yes, Samuel.
So you would say that prayer would change the outcome of events, but only if you really want the change.
If it's sincere, it has to be sincere. And that's what I mean. Sometimes our prayers are strategies. They're not sincere. I think that's what Pam was and June was making us to understand is that it has to do about sincerity. You know, now insincere prayers are meaningless. All right, but sincere. You know what I mean? As sincere as you can be, and that's all that you can be held to. Right? You have your own standard of sincerity. Right? And no one knows whether you're sincere but you. How else can they know that? Right? You may seem too casual to the observer. So, oh, they can't be sincere because there's no jumping up and down and all this other stuff. But you yourself know your sincerity. You yourself know these places and stuff. Yes, bro?
Yeah, what I'm saying, I think the sister's name is June. What I'm seeing her see is that the bottom is having a diagnosis of cancer. That may be someone else's bottom.
Yes,
and
not
you
her
were
bottom.
saying the experience for each individual is different.
Yes.
But her bottom may be just the thought of that.
Yes.
And that's
Just
where
the
the
thought.
scream comes in.
That's what
Just
it's
thinking that this may happen.
Yes, yes. Just the thought that it may happen
Right.
is enough to trigger the screen. You know, it doesn't. She ain't laying on the operating table with her lung on the table now and screaming. You know what I mean? So it's different for every one of us. You see, and that's why you have to go within yourself. You got to feel this thing within yourself. You got to do some personal introspection. You see, it's not something objective that we can point to and measure on a scale of 1 to 10. You see, but that was bottom enough for her. You see, bottom enough for her. So prayer and that prayerful mindset is a very beautiful thing. Yes, sister.
For the past 2 weeks, since David's sitting at the table, we've been dealing with some situations with him. His peers are teasing him, not only about his person, but about his name. And I would like for you to kind of address that, if you will, in a language that we would understand, to kind of reinforce what his mother and father told him.
First, I should know what mother and father told. It may be redundant and get on David's nerves. Huh?
Oh, well, first of all, I have explained to him that people will talk and give you labels, but you don't have to accept the labels that they've given you.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't think that has actually, he's actually got an understanding of that.
And what is it, David, that you don't understand?
Well, what I don't understand is, maybe you try to think about it.
Yes, I think he's wiser than all of us. You think about it, and then we will talk privately, okay? All right. David is wiser than all of us. Yes, yes, yes. So this prayer is a very unique thing. It's a very unique thing. And the interesting thing about prayer is that it automatically emerges as we become more and more aware of our imperfections, shortcomings, faults, and flaws. When we really start getting a real good insight into our shortcomings, this creates a kind of prayerful state of mind. So it's all linked together, so to speak. All linked together.
A lot of people think that we pray that if you have a particular outcome in mind that you want to happen, that by prayer it's going to happen. What comes to mind is a student of mine. Her son has been in a coma. He's a teenager.
Yes.
He's been in a coma now for about several months now. And she's been praying. She's been going through a lot. And she's a Christian woman. You know, baptized by the blood of Jesus.
Yes,
and,
yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone is praying for her. And I know she's got to be bottoming now, and I know she's got to be putting up the most sincerest of prayers. But her young man is still in a coma. You know, for someone like that, you know, to be waiting and the result might be that he might die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, certainly someone who is praying sincerely would probably, if that were to happen, say, my prayers were not answered, my son was not saved.
Mm-hmm. Of course. And that does happen. And it happens every day.
Yeah, right.
And very often it completely destroys the person's faith.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever particular religion they have, because things did not come out the way they did. And you see, help comes in so many different forms. We have a preconceived notion of how this help will manifest itself. So even there, the ego plays this game of deception. But very often the way God helps us is not at all in any way related to the expectations at all. You see? At all. Sometimes that help comes in a form that you will define as a calamity. You see? And because of our own spiritual immaturity, it may take years for us to see how that really was a help. You see? So there's always that caution. You may get what you pray, but it may not come in the form that you think. Yes, your help may come, but it may not be like you think. At all. But it comes. It comes. And so it becomes very difficult when we have these immature concepts.
Because I really don't know what to say to him.
Then say nothing. And meditate, huh? And just say nothing. Become like the old mullah. Just abide in his will. Just abide in his will. You can do that. Great. We're just having a review of the 10 sessions. I know you said, Sandra, what 10 sessions, right? What 10 sessions? But we're all over now, huh?
We caught quite a few.
You
We
caught
had the
some of it.
tapes.
Yeah, you caught
we had
some
the
of it.
tapes too.
You got some tapes too. So we just have a free-flowing, open floor kind of format here where we're just revisiting any particular things that you wanted to revisit. And we talked about all kinds of things. The idea was to focus in on meditation and its role and all those other things. I think, Bilal, at this point, it's time for me to get paid. We're going to go into break in a little bit, but what I would like each to do here in the time that we have remaining in the workshop, because the ideal of having this community of seekers that we are, is that we can all learn from each other, and I really mean that. We can learn so much from each other, and that's the whole advantage of us coming together. We're all on the same path, we're all in search of the same thing, and we all therefore have something that you can give. And the ideal today is to have a sort of potluck something, if you will, where I would like to invite as many as we can get today to come forward and share with us something from their own experience in terms of what you personally have to contribute to us as a group, to feed us, if you will, off of your knowledge. That is what keeps us all strong. And I want to kind of narrow it down. I want you to tell me what your life was like before encountering the teachings. I want you to tell me that. I want to hear that. Because very often you see what happens is that it takes us a while to really appreciate the value of these teachings itself. So tell me, what was your life like before you encountered the teachings? And then after that, I want you to tell me, with the encounter the teachings, what happened? What happened to you? What did these teachings do? What did they do to you? And then the third thing I want you to address is, what is your life like now? And so I want us to do that. I want each of you to share with each of the other seekers in the room. And I have your stool ready for you, so I'm anxious to get this going. So, Bilal, who should be the first? I'll let
Pam.
Bilal do the damage.
Pam, because she asked the most
Pam,
questions.
okay, Pam, come. Bilal is in charge. Come, Pam. And if we can do this, and I try to get 5 minutes or so, but I want to get as many people here.
Or do you want to do it after break?
Well, let's get a few now, and because after break they'll get too clever. They'll have time to think. Huh? And I like to see a format in the future where you all start giving more such songs. Now, I think you all are ready. I think you all have a lot more than you think. All right.
I know that after I do that, I'll think of a lot of other things. But
Good. That's why he's getting you first. Number one.
I think I've said probably many times that I've been on the path for a while. I actually came across some Eastern teachings when I was 16, Krishnamurti. And from then on, I've been very attracted to the Eastern mode of spirituality. I was fortunate enough to go to India in '89. I was there for 3 weeks. And even though the intent was not to go there for, quote, an initiation or a really spiritual reason, actually I went, it was a dance pilgrimage, because my guru at the time was a dancer, and her daughter was debuting in Madras. But I got a chance to visit a great deal of temples. And, you know, that really, really impressed me, and the humility of the people impressed me, and I just felt that I had been embraced in a very, very loving way. And I just felt like my being there was just very special. Mm-hmm. And when I got back, I felt very different. I was already a vegetarian, but I was still eating fish. And when I was there, I couldn't eat it. I couldn't touch fish or anything like that. When I got back, I didn't want to touch it, and I started losing so much weight that I started eating it again. But I really felt that that visit really was a seed that sprouted. But I still was not connected. I don't want to get off the point. I still didn't feel connected because I still did not have a guru. I was going to a temple that I felt was probably kind of close to what I'm getting here, the Vivekananda temple, but I still there, even though they had swamis walking around with the orange robes on, and I felt, oh my God, this is really close. I still didn't feel the kind of connection that I knew I should have felt. And so I felt disconnected. I knew I didn't have my finger on what I should have. And when I listened to the radio, Joyce J one day, Bhagwan was on the radio, and after he spoke, I was so touched. I called him right away and spoke with him. We spoke for a long time, and he gave me the information. I came down and was a part of the cable access taping. And from there, I've been coming to classes. So I would say, in terms of what my life has been like before coming here, I felt very aimless, very, very disconnected, not knowing, and very, very, a little bit angry that I had not found, what I was thirsting after. I now know that I found it, and I had really felt like I had honestly felt like God had really turned his back on me. I really felt that way because I felt earnest. I really felt in earnest. I was reading all these books, and yes, before I came here, I felt I knew something. I thought I was smart, and I do know now. I don't know nothing. You know, pardon my grammar. I don't know anything. You know, and I feel now that I've been initiated and I've come across these teachings. I'm like, how could I have been in this life all this long time and not have come across? I was just amazed that because I just thought that I had touched upon everything that dealt with spirituality. I was amazed. I had never heard of Satmar literature, and so when I came here, I was just like, my goodness, this is a wellspring that I knew nothing about. If I didn't know about this, that just, it humbled me that I didn't know that, and in my thinking that I knew so much, I just realized I just don't know it. I don't know anything. As a result of coming into these teachings, I have prioritized my life. I think I now have a better sense of what's most important. I really think I do. Material things have less importance to me. And Bhagwan always says, you think you know what happiness is, but you really don't know. You think that the material things will make you happy. The man will make you happy. The baby I had, I thought would make me happy. It didn't happen. And Bhagwan said, just test your life. Get those things and you will see. You'll be that way for just a minute. And then the same feeling will come over you again. And now I see that. I really experienced this, and this is not to say that I don't have times when I think that maybe a job, Sidar and I were talking today, and I was just telling him about my financial situation and how I felt that if I had a better paying job, things would be better for me. And he just quickly told me that your happiness would not come as a result of that job. It's not just that. And I had to just thank the brother because I know he's right. It's not just that. It's something more intangible. And so I think that as a result of coming to these teachings, I now have a better handle on what's real. Spirituality, those things that you can't touch. I feel that as a result, especially this session in particular, the way that Bhagwan introduced the teachings, they just opened my mind to a lot, a great deal. And as a result of that, I'm not, in my books I notice as much as I used to, and I'm still in my books, but not as much. And when I go to the books, I go there with a different kind of attitude. So I would have to say that attitudinally, I know I've changed. My whole attitude about spirituality, my whole attitude about being in contact with people who are like-minded. I embrace them in a different way.
And she's running out of time. Right. But all right, thank you, Pam, so much. Let's take order now. Let's take Avia. Let's do one more. Then we come back from break. We'll start with Kiva, and we just go around and we'll try to harass as many as we can. Avia, huh? That way, Bilal won't feel like he have to pick on anybody. We'll just follow my art. Huh? We'll follow the order.
Okay. So what was your life before teaching? Well, I thought I had a pretty well-balanced life. I thought I had a pretty well-balanced life. I have a mother and father that loved me dearly, and I love them dearly. I have two brothers, and and they had the white picket fence type of thing, and I wanted the same. So my goal in life was to one day marry a wonderful man and have 2 children, 2 or 3 kids, and that's what I tried to get. But I did it by being on the set, so to speak, trying to be on the A list so I could be A men, you know, the type of the men that had the material things that I thought could provide me with the nice picket fence and type of thing. And I did this for like 20 years. I've had probably men in my life that some women describe as catches or whatever, but they never resulted in that marriage or the white picket fence. And after so many of those type of relationships, I started trying to take a look at myself, and I could not find, well, what is it? Why isn't I haven't found the happiness? Well, I know better now, but why haven't I found the happiness that I want? Why haven't I found that type of life that I'm looking for? And the last relationship I had probably ended last year, and before it actually ended, I could see it coming, because, you know, if you've had relationships that have not worked out, you can see the signs, you know, here we go again, you know. So I was really tired, and one particular day I'll never forget, February 18th, 1995, that crisis that Bhagwan described happened to me, and I thought I was losing my mind. I was alone, something came over me, and I cried for an hour. I mean, I'm sure my neighbors, I live in a high-rise building, we live in pretty close proximity, what is going on there? But there was a lot of pain that came out, and I cried, and I asked God, why is this happening? Because I was wondering why this gentleman, he had just left the apartment. I was just wondering, why is this going to end? I could see it's going to end, because I knew I was not going to be able to take much longer what I was feeling. And I just hated the thought of starting all over again. And I cried, and there was just so much pain, and something came over me, a peacefulness. And it was I can't really even describe it, but I have not been the same since. And there was something lifted off my shoulders that day. And I didn't even want to tell anyone about it for days. I didn't tell my closest friend, you know, Tony. I didn't tell my mom or dad, because I felt like I had maybe lost it a little bit. I didn't know how to describe what I had felt that particular day. And I eventually did start sharing it with people. And I started looking for the answers to what I was feeling or what had happened to me in books. So I had this fever to go out and just buy all these books. I went to Afrocentric. I mean, they know me in there. I need a book on this, because I feel like I need to know about this. And I just read books. I just couldn't get enough of reading. I would come home from work, and I would crack open a new book, and I would just eat it up. I would eat it up. And I did learn more about my history, my African history. I learned more about, you know, black consciousness. And I learned some things, but I still was not satisfied. There's something else. There's something else I should be doing. And I'm just hoping that God will lead me in that direction. And one day, I was on the phone with my girlfriend, and my mom called, through call waiting, and she says, I want you to turn on Channel 19. There's someone that reminds me. He talks like you do. Because through the years, my parents have known how I felt about, you know, spirituality and religion. I grew up in a Muslim home. My father is actually a Muslim minister. He has his own temple, and most of his followers are incarcerated. And even being the daughter of a Muslim minister, I was never really that much a part of his teachings. I respected his teachings. I understood what he was doing, what I thought was a good thing, but I never felt much of a part of it. And when I was old enough to not be involved, I was not involved. And it hurt him. He didn't even have to say it. I'm close enough to him to know that really did hurt him. And when he would have meetings in his home, I mean, the temple was in the home, I would be going out the back door to a party. And that just broke his heart, because he's like, she's choosing that life over what I have to offer. But anyway, getting back on track to what happened, the day my mom called, she says, there's a prayer. She was whispering, because Dad was probably somewhere in the room. She didn't even want Dad to know she was making his phone call. And she says, there's someone I want you to turn the channel on. Hurry up. I says, no, I'm on the phone, you know. She's like, well, just turn, you know, because if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. So I told my girlfriend Linda, I said, let me call you back. So I turned on channel 19, and there was Bhagwan. So I'm watching and I'm listening, and I thought, wow, is this wonderful? This is exactly what I needed to hear. This is what I've been searching for. This is what none of the books had told me that I have been looking for. And there was a number at the bottom of the television, and I wrote that number down. And I said, I'm determined to meet that gentleman. because I need more of those teachings. That was it. That's exactly what I was looking for. And I called the number and I left a message on the recorder, and he returned my call, left a message on my recording. It was phone tag for a couple times. And then finally Bilal called, and he was able to catch up with me, and he invited me to come to one of the sat songs, and I came, and I've been coming ever since. And my life is very, very different than it was before. My priorities have changed. I'm no longer, well, I had kind of gotten out of the party mood a little bit anyway, but I don't spend as much time chasing that rainbow and, my time more, I get more fulfillment out of helping other people. I enjoy teaching literacy panels. I do that a couple times a week. I have an adult that I teach. I just enjoy being available to help people. I enjoy being available if someone needs some inspiration. If there's anything that they think I can help them with, I always want anyone to know that they're free to call on me. But my life is different. I feel free. I feel just lighter. I don't know the term to use, the words to use. What I thought was a heavy load to me before is no longer even a burden to me anymore, because I just don't even worry about those issues. I don't worry about, well, if one day I'm going to have this white picket fence and the 2 kids that go, those things don't even matter to me before, because I had this conversation with Bhagwan during our one-on-one conversation. He says, you've had those things before, and not this life, you've had in another life. Why is that important? When it's your time, if it's going to be your time, it might not even be in this lifetime. But just accept that, and trust in God, so to speak. And that's what I'm doing. So that's how my life is now.
Very good. We'll take our break, and then we will anxiously reconvene, because next we will hear from Kiba. And then we'll keep going. All right.
Hell. H-E-L-L. Although I'm a member of the largest group of African Americans that live outside of the United States, the Hebrew Israelites, and that fulfilled me on one end as far as being a part of that, and recognizing and living according to what we believe are our biblical roots and our African heritage. There still was an emptiness. There was still something that was not even allowing me to buy completely into that. I had been exposed to a hatha yoga and some meditation maybe about 12 or 13 years ago, before I became a Hebrew. And once I got involved with the Hebrew Israelites, I sort of walked away from that. I didn't get, it seems that my life has been that I'm biting off of pieces and I'm not consuming the whole thing, if you know what I mean. I'll be involved in something for a little while, and then I lose interest, and then I'm moving along. And I'm assuming it was just carrying me that way until I came into the teachings. This has answered a lot of questions for me, and most of all, it's given me some peace. And to me, that's very, very important. It doesn't replace what I'm involved with as a Hebrew Israelite. It only makes all of this more meaningful. And I'm just very, very thankful to have met Bhagwan. I give a lot, and I give a lot to our incarcerated brothers. And it's through Dr. Gloria Peace that I met Bhagwan. She suggested that I invite him down to speak to some inmates that stayed there. And I think the thing that really gets you with Bhagwan and want you to know what he's all about is this humility. I mean, I was just amazed to see an African American man with so much humility. And I say African American, not mean that they are different from anyone else, but that's the one that's closest to my heart. So I was just very, very pleased. And then he just, even when I came out to talk to him on a business situation, he took the time out, because I threw out my little knowledge, and then he just embellished it with the knowledge that he has. And so in meeting someone like this, and if you have any desire to become a better person, then naturally you would plug in. And so I'm very, very thankful for that. What has happened to my life after the teachings, I feel that I'm making some changes, and I'm hoping that the people that I associate with are seeing that. Oftentimes, though, people don't understand when you make some changes and you pull back from some of the madness and the craziness that's in the world, and they don't truly understand that, but I hope that those that love me can appreciate what I'm going through now. So that's what my life is like now. I'm very, very anxious, probably too anxious to just embellish all of it and become a cannibal in a sense and just getting it all at one time. So I find myself having to slow down in that aspect. And I told Bhagwan, I don't want to have to go through this again. I really want to do the best that I can do in this life. So if my soul has to come back, it won't have to go through all that craziness and stuff that I've been through in the past. So, and I would just like to take the opportunity before I close to just say that I'm very, very blessed to be in your midst. And please remember me in your prayers.
Very good. Next is, how should we go here? Do we go straight back or we go around? Let's clean the table first.
Get Florida.
Get Florida. All right. Come on, Florida.
He in the last row, see.
He's not going to vote. Yes, we'll hear from our sister Florida.
Thank you. Namaste. I would like to begin as I grew up in Arkansas. I come from a, I would say, middle-class, loving family, mom and dad, member of 7 brothers and sisters. I am the 4th child. There was 2 girls in family, and my sister, which was older than I, unfortunately, maybe I shouldn't say unfortunately, she passed away when we were about 17, when she was about 17 years old. And through that experience, just turned my life upside down. Because at that time, we were going to church on Sundays, but I wasn't taught how to accept death in a rational way. And after that experience, how can I say it? I became a very negative person. I began to take on the characteristics of my mom. She was more the dominant person in the family. She did all of the loud fussing, I would say, Bhagwan. And we just, I guess, would get to cling to one another. Because she had lost a daughter and I had lost a sister. And my mom became my sister, or I would say my best friend. And even sometime today after I met my husband, he would call me Willistine, which is my mother's name, because I guess I had took on her characteristics so much that I would just mimic not only her cooking, her mannerism, and so forth and so on. Even, I guess, in the way she would treat my husband, I mimicked that in the way I would treat Bomani. But through all of that, I thought that I was, I didn't need anyone. I just closed the door, and it was really difficult for me. I had a lot of friends, I would say, but I would only let them get so close, and then I would say, oh no, stay back. Because I've learned through the teachings that I just refuse to open up and to accept love, or to love like I should have. What happened after I received the teaching is I realized that I have to love for the sake of love, not just a person, just to love. And I found that was like a relief. I didn't have to look at that person to say, well, I require you to do this, that, or the other for me to love you. I can accept that person as he or she is. I can remember seeing Bhagwan on television, and I shared the experience with my husband. And we tried for the life of us to find the Royal House in the telephone directory. But unfortunately, we did not find it. So I guess Destiny had it so that the next week I tuned in at the same time with the same channel on a Friday evening. And I was able to copy the number down from the television. And Bamani called Bala, and you know, from that you know the story. But I have learned that one-on-one has been my most rewarding, uplifting of me personally when I had the one-on-one with Bhagwan, because I can recall sharing those inner thoughts that I thought was me and was sane, and finding out that it was insane. So today I can say that I am still insane, but put a plus on the end. So I must say, I thank Bhagwan and the God and all of you for just taking me in and sharing and holding me when I needed you most. You've been there. And I would like to thank all of you, because I don't look at you now as being, you know, that person should do this, that, or another. I look at you the way you are and accept everyone the way they are. And in that way, I feel better within myself. And with that, I think I need to close. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. And remember, this is not a testimony to Bhagwan. So please, let's get off of that Bhagwan guy, okay? I just want you to share from the abundance of your experience, you see. So, yes, Desiree. You all know the order, so you know who's next, huh?
Well, I guess we started like 5 years ago. We started seeking God, started going to a church and Christianity. It's a special minister that I really enjoy, and he kept talking about the unadulterated truth. 3 years I just, waiting on him to tell me the unadulterated truth, and he never, he kept talking about it, but he never preached on it or in Bible class, or he would just talk about little bits and pieces. So then later on, I was going to my girlfriend's store, and she had pamphlets on Bhagwan. What he was saying sounded, that I needed to hear. So I started coming to classes, and I was going back and forth to the church, to Matuna Church, to Bhagwan. So I ended up eventually just staying with Bhagwan. I got kind of tired of jumping back and forth. And so I needed a peace of mind within, and I thought I was getting it, but things would always happen, show me that I wasn't in peace, on the inside, peace on the outside. Some days I felt more at peace, and other days I didn't. So the teachings have really helped me to understand myself, because like through meditation, I've learned things about myself that I didn't even know were in me, and it kind of scared me at first. But through your questions, a lot of times I would write down questions, and when I would get here, you would ask the same question. I'm like, something. So right now my life is a lot calmer, but it's still in and out. But I'm able to manage it a lot better and deal with it. Because one of the things that was really upsetting me was my daughter. She was always telling me, when I make 18, I'm going to leave. And when the first time she left, I thought I could deal with it. And I didn't. I was just, my nerves just shot. The second time she did it, I was more at ease. The third time she did, I was like, go on out there so you can experience it for yourself. But I really enjoy these classes, and I don't think I'm going anywhere else. And I thank you all for helping me with this.
All right, very good. You know what to do.
Yeah.
All right.
My name is Yolanda, first of all. I only have 20-some years on me, so it's not too long. So I can say it probably started about 3 years ago. I was very much into a whole totally different lifestyle, which was at a certain age you're more into, you have a more peer pressure against you, I would say, because you're in school and you have like, I mean, more, you know, fashion, you're into music. I was into the music. I was into music. I was singing. I was into the studio. I was around that kind of atmosphere. And my goal basically was to get out there and be big. You know, that's what my goal was. You know, at first it was school, and I was going for advertising art. You know, I wanted to just make it out there, get a job, get in my field, and I'm still in that level. I'm still at that level now. But then again, it was something missing. You know, I was in a church, and I wanted to have this certain feeling. You know, everybody had the Holy Ghost. You know, the certain feeling everybody had. You know, and when I got in the choir. You know, I was in the choir, and I did all the things that everybody else was doing, and I said, well, they got this feeling, but I don't have it. You know, I stayed in there, you know, and it kind of got there. You know, I thought I felt it, but it was false, and I knew it was false. So I began searching, and I said, what am I looking for? Am I looking for something I need to belong to? You know, do I need to belong to something, a group or something? And I think when I went to my readings or studies, I got into religions, I don't know how. And I guess I was searching for something different from what was in the Bible, you know. And when I came across something, I started crying, and I said, this is what I was looking for. You know, it was something totally different. I said, well, why did I hit it right here? So I think my sister had a book from the airport. Somebody had just given it to her, and I went in the room, and I just read it. I said, oh, what is this? And it was, I guess, the Bhagwan Gita. And I came across that book. And without no guidance, and I mean, I just looked into it, and I said, oh my God, this is something totally different from what I was taught in the church. But I accepted it. I was open to it. And right in the back section, it said, a guru is needed. And I just said, oh, forget it, because it's all the way in India, so I know I'm not going to India no time soon. So I just said, I put it aside. You know, even though it was on my mind, I just kept living where I was. And then I think at an African shop, this is in Broadview on 17th Avenue, it was an African shop across the street from Broadview Baptist. And I think Tumasan and Bhakti came there with Bilal. And I said, okay, I'm going to go. Since they're speaking on African spirituality, so I wanted to see what it was about. Somebody invited me, so I went. And I said, man, this is what I was looking for, you know. This is all that I've been looking for. So I said, a guru. I said, woo, a guru. I mean, you know, it's a spiritual teacher. So after I heard them speaking, and they had meetings out at Kennedy King College on the South Side. So that's how I began to get into it. And I say my life changed now because it's harder now. It's much harder now because I pay more attention to things that I didn't pay attention to. I can't say it's easier for me, you know, because, I mean, certain things that I liked before, like I'm not worried about being into music. It's in the back of my head when it was in the front. Now I'm more worried about, yes, the job and everything, but then again, all of that fell out of place too. Now I'm more into my spirituality. You know, I said, I have to attain this. I can't even go back to the way I used to, even though sometimes I get depressed or whatever. I said, man, I can either do this or go ahead, or I can either stay the way I used to be. I said, but I can't go back. So I kept coming to the teachings, and I have the feeling now that I'm in the right spot, and this is where I will be, and this is where I'm here to stay. So I have to, because I really can't go back. I can't, because I would really be depressed. I would go crazy if I go back. So now this is where I'm at. I'm still learning. So it's a learning thing for me.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
I think I've been looking for God ever since I could remember, and I've looked for God in a lot of different places, and it didn't feel right. I've been exposed to a lot of religions, a lot of aspects of spirituality, and none of them felt right, although I did gain knowledge at those places. I feel now that they were only stepping stones to get me to a more solid ground. The teachings And Bhagwan I feel comfortable with, I feel better about than a lot of the religions I've experienced in the past. And I think it's just, my search for God has helped me to find me. That's where I've come to at this point, back to me, and evaluating myself. And in evaluating myself, I'm finding, I think that the big issue is, it's about me. And it's not about the religion. It's not about spirituality. It's about knowing myself. And this path, these teachings help me to understand that a lot better. And I'm still in the process. I haven't come to any real conclusion. I am still in the process every day. And I thank God for Bhagwan, having experienced him one day on the radio. I was so driven to find him. It was unreal. And I did find him, and I'm glad that I did. And I'm glad I could share this time with you all as well.
We'll go that way, huh? Then we'll go straight across. I really appreciate you all coming and sharing with us these things, you know. 'Cause I don't know if you all learning something. I'm just sitting here, I'm just learning. Really thank you for that. Please, feed me.
Well, I don't know where to start, but I'm here.
We all ended up here.
I'm here. You know, well, everyone is well. I know I have gone through trials and tribulations, you know, but when I've always felt like the Creator was always looking out for me, you know, and He would always put things in my path to help me along the way and bring people into my life to open me up and make me understand life a lot better. And well, one day I saw the Bhagwan on cable, and I was like, wow, ooh, I like what that brother's saying. He is heavy. So it was like maybe about 10 minutes before he was going off, you know. And so I said, well, let me put a tape in there right quick and at least get his telephone number or something. So I called and I talked to Bilal, and I got one of the tapes, and I liked it. And well, it took a little while, but I'm here. And I want to say thank the Bhagwan, you know, because you've made a difference, and I am trying hard, very hard, to really get myself together, you know, become a vegetarian completely and move away from the worldly things, and because that's not really important. What's really important is to one day be one with my Creator. Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I don't really know how to begin this, but knowing them is made my life just so much more fruitful. Coming into understanding them as family people is a little bit different from just knowing them through the teachings. I met their father, and through their father I met them, and it was at a time when I was really struggling with the divorce. And it changed my whole perspective on materialism and success and how I define success in life. And I had to just completely get a turnaround in terms of how I view myself and my self-respect. And I think that after coming across the teachings, I have an understanding that my self-worth is not dependent on, is not conditioned by my flaws and my insecurities. And I just know that coming into understanding the teachings has helped me a lot.
Okay.
I think the thing that would sum up how I feel was said a couple of weeks ago, I think in one of our discussions. I don't know if I'm going to quote it right, but it was something about religion was for those that were seeking to avoid hell, and spirituality was those that had been to hell. So, yeah, I've been there. And I just thought that was kind of the essence of the experience. And the next thing, because I went home and I highlighted that particular page, was it just kind of summed up how I felt about things, because as most of you know, I've only been attending these particular classes, just this year. But the concept that the cracks and what we consider bad experiences might have been those things that brought us to a good place. And just being able to take a look at what we looked at, or what I formerly looked at as a nightmare or something really unfortunate, and not wanting to be a whiny person, but just trying to understand where do I go after these experiences, and being able to look at the cracks as a blessing sometimes. And so I don't think we're not focusing on you, but you are sort of a central figure, and Bilal, and the way that my friendship with Sandra brought me here, and basically I've been able to take a look at the cracks as something that was just another conduit to something else in life. So I enjoy being with all of you and learning from all of you too. Thank you.
Well, my statement would be a little bit different, because I've known Bhagwan for about 20 years, and I was exposed to this religious philosophy about 20 years ago, and I married a guy who was involved in it, and I was a vegetarian for about 7 years, against my will. But in order to hold the marriage together, I had to become vegetarian, and my son was also vegetarian. So I've been exposed to everything that I have heard and you have heard. So it's old hat to me. But I always knew, I said, well now, this is the best diet. In my mind, intellectually, I understood everything, but because someone else was trying to make me get into it, I just didn't want to do it. And so I was still out there. I was divorced, and I was still seeking and looking for certain things, and I never could find it. And as far as religion, I never had a spiritual experience, so I couldn't relate to people having the Holy Ghost. But I like quiet things. I didn't like all that jumping up and down. And when I was a small child, I didn't even like going to Sunday school because I didn't want to see the boogeyman. So I never had a yearning for the spiritual part of the philosophy. But I started picking up some books. Sufis blew my mind. I love the Sufis. And about 2 years ago, I read a book by Rajanice. I said, wow, this sums up my feeling about religion. I could relate to it. And so around that time, I started saying, now I've been through, and as far as the sister here was saying, the child, the marriage, the child, the money, I've had all of that. I married a guy, and he's very rich. Didn't matter. It didn't work. I'm poor. So you can forget all that stuff. It's just not going to work. And so then I said, now it's got to be something better than this. And my philosophy has been, I got to find something. So, and Leonard, excuse me, it's hard for me to call him Bhagwan because I've known him as Leonard all this time. But, you know, we've maintained our friendship, and we used to have the wine cellar where we'd all talk philosophy and everything that's been said. And so I started talking to the Bhagwan again, and he said, why don't you come to one of the workshops? I said, okay. And I started doing some more reading. I said, well, now I know I got to stop eating meat again. Again, I got to stop it. So I started saying, let me. And then I was initiated. I said, oh, no. See, I understand how hard it is to stay on this path. It's very, very difficult. And I'm not looking at it like, oh, it's going to take me out of this right away because it's been 20 years I didn't get into it. I understood all the principles involved, and it's very difficult. So when I was initiated, I told my wife, I said, wait a minute now, I haven't started meditating yet. I got to get all the meat out the house. I got some stuff in the refrigerator. Drink up all the
Wait till I eat that.
I said, is it okay? I didn't throw the names away. I got sick. I just went through a lot of changes. I started to eat everything I could find, which is not really what I do. I generally don't do that. And so finally I got everything out the way and I started meditating. And I said, wow. Once I did it, I said, boy, I am at home. I said, I should have been doing this 20 years ago, but the time wasn't right.
You need to struggle.
I had this, I have struggled. But now I'm not concerned about outward things. I've experienced a lot, and I know you don't get it out here. I'm ready to go. And I talk to Kay all the time, and her speakers say, I've never heard anybody say, I'm tired of being here, I got to get out of here. And I say that all the time. She said, where you going? And that's my whole thing. I got to get out of here. And I don't want to come back. I really don't want to come back here. There's nothing here for me. And when I started meditating, I experienced so much inwardly. I said, well, this is it. I don't have to be out here now. So I'm here to stay. And I don't care if we had sad song. I mean, if I can get the books, the tapes, I'm fine. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Something you want to say, brother?
Hi, my name is Larry, and this is my third session here, so obviously I'm new to these teachings. However, I do want to say that I believe I've been on a spiritual quest since I was very little, but nothing tended to satisfy me. I dipped in Buddhism, I dipped in Islam, I dipped in Christianity, some other things, the infinite way, and none of those were fulfilling for me. So I kind of went on my own and was studying on my own and didn't have a community to plug into, to be with. Became a vegetarian some years ago. I've been meditating for some years. But Bhagwan said something, probably the first time I came here, is that it's important to seek spirituality with a community, and that there's learning that goes back and forth between all the members of that community. So I feel that that's important. That's why it's important for me to keep coming here. I like the spirit here. I feel comfortable here. And it is my plan to keep coming to these teachings. And I'll end with that, and everyone remain peaceful.
Thank you. We'll go right behind you, and brother, you come, and then we'll start back around the other side. And you bear with us that we wanted to get a little everybody's flavor here. We're going to start taxing you more here because you all got a lot of good stuff that everybody needs to know about. Yes, brother.
My life was a trip. I was known as, I guess, the weird one of the crowd. My thoughts were so much different than my friends and such. And growing up with that, I developed a lot of anger because I couldn't talk to nobody. And I believe I like being in a spot like this. But,
Me either.
coming here, I learned a lot of the different angers I had, and I tried to deal with, well, I dealt with them differently than I had in the past. I didn't leech out at it, before, but now I think about it more and I try to overcome that, and it's helped me a lot. And now my life is, much more peaceful. Although it was somewhat peaceful before, it's just a lot of anger that developed. So that's about it.
All right, thank you very much. Mensa, next. You haven't prepared a statement, have you? He's there, huh? You have to watch this message.
Well, as far as I could remember, my early childhood, I guess you can say I was kind of was born into a family that was real spiritual. I can recall like going to church with my grandma, and it was a Christian church, Baptist, and I used to always catch her, like when she gets the Holy Ghost, and I'll be right there to catch her, and she will fall in my arms. And I used to always enjoy, you know, looking forward to attending church with her. I don't know if it's just for that purpose of catching her, I don't know. But I got a lot of my spirituality through my grandmother. As I got older, about, I would say, 10, 12 years old, I wanted to know more about my ancestors and some of the great things that they did. So I started studying and reading, and stuff that I was learning in school, you know, I couldn't, you know, compute it. You know, it was like they was trying to brainwash me. You know, I was saying, you know, this is not right, you know. And I can see some of the things that they was doing, you know, trying to steal our intelligence and all the great things that we had did. And so I began, you know, searching. I would always read things on my own, almost like in between the lines, you could say. And my brothers here, they've been keeping me and supporting me, and without their help, I don't know if we all still been together or not. But it takes a community, a strong back foundation, and we can get through this thing.
All right, very good. Whatever you're willing to give. Thank you.
For now.
For now. All right. Leave a comment there. Who's next? Who's hiding? Etc. They all been waiting for you. They all. And remember, you can ask them questions if you want to get even with them, because I know he's asked you his share of questions.
When I was a sperm. I think like anything else in life, this is hard because there's so much to say in such a little time, and I don't want to bore you guys because, again, my life is not important. But from the beginning, being placed in an EMH class in which that you label that you can't achieve, you can't function, and coming up in a time in which that it wasn't cool to be dark-skinned and have African core features, at a time in which that there was no such thing as black being beautiful, at a time in which that you're in search for something inside your soul, in which that you need someone else to tell you that that thing is inside your soul. At a time in which that you get lost trying to identify with a world in which that there's no identity out there for you to identify with. At a time in which that you seek things within yourself in which that you can't find outside of the world. At a time in which that you need a crutch to help you to find those things. The crutch is being alcohol, drugs, and a fast life. At a time when you think all is lost, there comes something in which that has always been there, which is a belief. So my life was all that I just described. It's been a life of rejection in the sense that, again, people just don't understand where you're coming from at times. with the negritude in which that I grew up with, being it as it may that, the lighter skinned people had all the opportunities and all the chances. And all I had was me and my blackness, so I studied that in depth. I became an angry man, very angry man. And I think the definition of egotism is when you separate. I separated myself because I couldn't feel the oneness in which that I had with the human race or human beings. So in this quest of finding who I was, I fought a lot. Name the jobs I had. I mean, God, I've been fired for just about every job possible because I didn't play that crap. And there was no more jobs left. Can you believe that? Post office, People Gas, Illinois Bell, International Harvest, the stock market. So I had to go to school. Because really I had lost my mind. I lost my mind in this craziness and this madness. And in doing so, guess what I majored in? And it wasn't, in essence, that's what I wanted to become. I was looking for answers. And I thought there was some secret to this thing called life. Some secret in which that no one could share and give me. Some secret in which that I read in books, but yet and still, books were in books and reality was in the world. And there was no correlation. So I studied psychology, and I became a psychologist. And I still found out that this was madness. Because I worked in the field whereas that everyone was preaching all this stuff in terms of changes in behavior, in terms of the ideologies of being a solid person within the world, but yet and still you take a look at their life, they wasn't any of that stuff. So again, it was madness. So one day while I was sitting in my office, all of a sudden this guy comes to the door. And we started talking. I have not asked him to this day, why did he come? I have not. But yet and still it was a blessing because there was something in which that I was seeking. Okay, I have never heard of the House of Ra, Africa, anything else. Seemed like the teachings have always been with me, but no one taught me about the teachings until the teacher came. No one taught. The teachings was there, but yet and still I couldn't understand them. I needed someone to interpret that for me, so I got me a couple of interpreters. And what is my life like now? I really don't care. All the things in which that I worried about, whether or not people would accept me, whether or not I was doing the right thing, whether or not I was pleasing to others, whether or not I was satisfying people, ideas and thoughts about me. I don't care anymore. Right now, I feel as though I'm living in grace. Let the Lord will be done. I'm living under grace. This is a stupid and boring story, but yet it's still it was the truth. Again, the teachings have changed my life tremendously because, again, I was not living. What can I tell you? I was not living. And now I'm beginning to come alive because one of the things in which that God blessed me with this thing. And this thing is love. I know how to love now. I know how to love now. I didn't know how to love. But I know how to love. That's it.
Thank you. Who's next back there? Only a few more to go. She feeds us good food. Now she'll feed us some food for our mind.
What my life was like before the teachings, what I can remember, I was real perplexed. Basically about what I was feeling about myself and childhood things. Because I was raised in a Baptist church also, you know, Sunday school, church every Sunday. But what I realized as I got older was I went every Sunday, but I never really caught on to the Holy Ghost or the Spirit never hit me because I would always fall asleep. So I thought it was me. You know, at first, I realized that it was me, but I couldn't do anything about it. I was forced to go. So I thought, and when I got a chance to stop going, I stopped going. But when I became an adult, I went back and I said, you know, maybe I'll do better. But I still fell asleep. So I knew something was wrong there. And I just completely stopped going. What happened was I feel like I've been a part of this family for a long time. Because in the early 80s, you know, I'm married to an Anglo man I met waiting. And we dated on and off, but what I realized is that no matter who I dated, they just didn't make me feel the way he felt. So about 7, 8 years before we got married, my goal was to marry him. He didn't know it, but I knew it. My goal was to marry him and have his baby. So I feel like I've accomplished a whole lot. You know, I feel like a lot of the things that I was missing, I got, you know, by just marrying him. What has happened now, what made me realize that these teachings and this family is so special, I was at work one day and I had a couple of Bhagwan leaflets on my desk, and this guy walked by and he was like, do you know him? He got all excited and everything, you know, I'm looking at him, I'm like, yeah, I know him, you know, what's it to you? He was like, oh man, he is the greatest. It was like, Leonard was the greatest thing since butter. The guy would never stop talking, so to get him away from my desk, I said, would you like to have a couple of these? And I gave the guy the leaflets and he left, okay? But right before that, when I got married, one of my close friends, she came up to me and she said, well, what field of work is your brother-in-law in? I said, well, he's a therapist. I said, but he does a little bit of everything. She said, you know, I know him from somewhere. And, you know, I just looked at her and I said, you know him? She said, I know that man, okay? And, you know, I started feeling, I'm like, you know, what's to it? Barbara, you know, why is everybody telling me this? Why am I so, you know, why is everybody so attracted to him? And I can just about figure out why. You know, I was very attracted to his brother and wasn't even aware of it, okay? But I noticed that I didn't get any satisfaction from anyone but him, okay? And I feel like what he has given me, I knew it had to come from a greater source. So I feel like I'm real nervous being a part of this family has just made me realize that there is something better, you know. And when I'm with them, I feel good, real good. And I pretty much taking their sister Emma to be my sister. You know, it's like, she's mine, okay? Really, really, you know, and I'm just glad to be a part of this arena, you know, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Let's meet this Wade she was talking about.
Linda said she had plans for me and I didn't know it. And she's right. She won't get me this time. Since I've come in contact with the teachings, my awareness has really increased. And before the teachings, first of all, let me say I've been dealing with these teachings since about 1974, but it's only been a part of my little intellectual repertoire. And so before the teachings, my life was characterized by worldly and political gains. I had carefully charted a career in law and politics for myself, and I pursued those goals. And I was just driven by ambition. But what it made me realize is that I should have listened to Bhagwan a long time ago. When I first started college about 20 years ago, he filled out my schedule for me. He said, you need to know something about your heritage. So he gave me a Black Studies class. He said, you need to know something about the history of man. So he gave me an anthropology class. And he said, you need to know something about yourself. And he gave me a philosophy class. So I had 3 classes dealing with those 3 different things. But along the way in college, I kind of drifted away from all of that. And I got away from my real identity, who I was. And I got really wrapped up into success and politics and things of that nature. I acquired a lot of worldly knowledge and intellectual knowledge. And the teachings weren't real for me. I was familiar with them, very versed in the teachings, but they weren't for real. And now I said, when I came back last year, I had acquired about 20 years of life experience, so I can relate to some of these teachings. So my brother told me, he said that, you know, sometimes, as in his case, you're too young and you don't have the experience, you had the knowledge. Whereas with me, I had a little bit of the teachings, but now I got a lot of experience. And he said, I need to synthesize that and put them together. So since I've come in contact with the teachings, I'm really not concerned with things in the outside world. I was just noticing I used to be fascinated on election night. Wasn't that excited Tuesday night. And I'm not so much interested in politics and fame and fortune and success, even though I acquired a little bit in the process. And that's about where I'm at now. You know, I feel like the man walking around with a bucket of water on his head. I feel just that aware. And Linda actually got me, but she won't get me any more from this point on because my eyes are open and the teachings have increased my awareness. And that's the thing that I've learned about the teachings is awareness. And that's what I want to say. It has made me a much better person, human being, all these workshops. But the main thing, it has increased my awareness. It's kind of hard to pull things over me now. And I understand people more because I understand myself more. So now I'm actually 22 years later practicing these teachings, meditation and savor and all those type of things. So now the teachings are for real. Before that it was just pseudo and intellectual. Now they're for real. That's it.
And next we have Emma.
I'll try to keep this short. I'll try. I don't know if it will be, but I'll try. First of all, I'll say that I've been on a search all my life. For as long as I can remember, I've been on a search, a path, or whatever it is you want to call it. I had a strong foundation laid spiritually by my grandmother, and that was always with me. As I became older and probably a preteen or either early teenager, I learned about this path through osmosis. When I would lay in the bed at night, I would hear my brothers talk. They discussed everything. They discussed this path, and things of the world. So this was in my head even as I slept. So I said, as a young woman, when I became married and had my children, I wanted to sort of like sort out things for myself, sort out what I was given as a very young girl from someone else, sort out what I was given as a teenager or young adolescent by my brothers, and I wanted to sort that out also. The fact that I was in a search, there was no question about that, but what I knew was not original or unique. From what I learned from my grandmother, she was into Jesus, okay? And Jesus was good for me, but I felt like if other people were blessed enough to have a Jesus in their lifetime, why could I? So when I heard about the Guru, Maharaji, I thought, this is it. You know, this is my opportunity to have something in my lifetime, you know, and that other people weren't any more blessed than what I am. There's always someone here for you living in the flesh, which is what I thought I needed. Well, around the time I started to apply for initiation, I was married and I had children. My husband at that time had become a satsangi, and when I applied, it seemed like my life fell apart. And like they say, be careful what you pray for, you may get it, but you never know what form it'll come in. And I thought mine came in the form of a sword. And I had a lot of anger about it. For many years I had a lot of anger. Here on one hand, I had what I thought I wanted was to start on a path in earnest and really start to search for myself, get me some original stuff, you know, because everything I had was borrowed. And on the other hand, my marriage was falling apart, which is something I wanted too. But after initiation, I received tremendous grace, which lasted a long time, you know, because I had that anger in me. I thought, like, not fair, you know, not fair. You know, how come I can't have both? How come I can't have it all? You know, I wanted all of it. I thought I could do it. You know, my cake was flying in the wind. I was ready. But it didn't happen like that. And now that I've heard these teachings, the teachings of my aunt, I would say to me this is a new springboard for me. Because the original sun God was good, but this is a black experience here. Not that God has a color or anything like that, but if you're a spiritual seeker in a community setting, then you need people you can best identify with. You know, we can best identify with our own shared experiences. And that's because we're people of color, but people in general have experiences too, and I understand that. But I like this springboard here. This springboard feels good. And the way I feel now is that this will get me out of the disequilibrium that I've been in for years, literally years. I know what it is I'm supposed to do, and I'm ready to do what I'm supposed to do now. And I think this is a good idea. This is an ideal setting to do it in a community where you can share with people you can relate to, can give you encouragement. And I've always had these people in my life here. Whatever I needed, they could break it down for me. And I feel like they will still be here for me. And it's all up to me. Depends on what it is I want to do. And I just like to say I'm going to go for it.
Go for it.
Go for
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, Sadarji, and then we can all go home. But we wanted to have everybody do some work in the last workshop.
What was my life before the teachings?
I don't think I really had too much of life without the teachings because I was always around them. When I was younger, it's about 5 or so. From the time that I can remember, I always had a yearning for the teaching. So the teachings was given to me at a very early age, maybe 14, 15. So I didn't have too much of a life outside the spiritual place. I was too young to get initiated. You know, I'm glad I was about 17. Understood the teachings enough to apply for them. So Maharaji asked me to wait to learn more, study more. So I applied again. When I was about 22 to initiate. I was just an infant on the path.
went out into the world with this new initiation, with this little understanding of the fact, right? Got knocked out. Knocked out for 12 long years. And then that I ain't had to understand. I had to understand of the fact to a point where I knew I needed to be initiated. And, you know, I needed, you know, I know about the guru and all of that. But it knocked me out. You know, so Bhagwan over the years, my guru, Maharaji, when they initiated me, him, and my other sister, revived me through these set songs. Got me breathing again. Where I'm at now, I got a better understanding of the teachings. It made me a seer, and I can see a little more. I can understand a great deal more. Life said, well, it's a lot different between me and you. You don't care? I celebrate, man. You know, I celebrate. Without these teachers, I don't know where I'll be. Probably in jail, I sprung out on drugs, you know. I'm death row. I mean, they saved my life. You know, I got them when I was real young, so a lot of things I couldn't do because the teachers kept me in check. I couldn't go out here and stick up people because I ain't have a job, or I couldn't do a lot of stuff because I got the teaching so early in life when I was real young, so I couldn't really enjoy life because the teachers.
You mean enjoy it?
I didn't want to go to college and things like that because I knew, you know, ever since I was real young, you know, did that a lot of times in previous life, so that wasn't no question. I didn't have a problem with trying to accumulate money, well, beautiful houses, and all of that. All I wanted was some type of attainment, you know. And fortunate enough to get initiation. It's real rare. You know, I hope you all appreciate the things that you do have. You know, and out of gratitude, we try to do some meditation because you ain't gonna get nothing off this path unless you sit down. No shortcuts. No shortcuts. It took me a long time to learn that, you know, because I was so young when I did receive the teachings. And it took me a long time to truly understand it. So now I got a deeper understanding of the teachings, and thank my brothers for keeping our guru teachings alive and involved. You know, and it's what's keeping me going now. That's all I'd like to say.
All right. All right, that ends the last workshop fittingly, and I don't know what the next workshop will be. I don't know when it'll be. That's up in you all's hands. I'm your servant. So you all harass Bilal. You all know the routine, right? You harass and put together something, and we'll continue. Until then, my only advice is that your meditation should never be sacrificed to nothing in this world. Don't miss no meditation. Meditate and do whatever else you like, but don't miss your meditation. And so until Bilal tells me we'll meet again, okay, I'm going to go and enjoy myself. But I'm ready whenever we're ready to reconvene on whatever topics you all deem fit. So you all can decide. And what I like to see in the next future is that I want to see more of you holding satsang. Those of you who are willing to be responsible for conducting a satsang, let Bilal know that, because you all are capable. Today we heard enough to know that you all are very capable, and I think it's time that you all begin to share your immense knowledge with those in your immediate proximity. So if any of you want to establish a home satsang that we all can come to, please make that known to Bilal. And we'll continue to have satsang at a new schedule, I guess. I don't know, every 2 weeks, every month. I don't know what we're going to do. You all decide. But this we have finished. And thank you all so much, Pam, and Dorothy's not here, and Sathra, who orchestrated this series. Thank you all so very, very much. Thank you so much. And we are just looking forward to the next opportunity we have to get together. All right, Rasha.